Hey guys, I'm Nena and this is my June wrap-up. So today I wanted to share the 4 books I read in June, and 3 of them were Harry Potter books. Recently I decided to read the Harry Potter series, and I actually have kind of an interesting backstory about that. So when I was younger, I read the first book when it came out. I think I was about 7 or 8 when that happened. I read the first book and I really loved it. I've always loved, stories about wizards and witches and magic. I've always been interested in those sorts of books. So I really loved the first book and I was excited to keep reading the series. But then my mom saw what I was reading. My parents didn't like that it was centered around witches and magic. They don't really believe in it, and they didn't want, I guess, it filling my head and thinking that was real. So they didn't allow me to read the rest of them. And of course, at that age, they were the ones who would drive me around and take me to the library or the bookstore. So I couldn't really, sneak around them. So that's a long story to say that I read the first one and then I didn't read any of the other ones until college, when I took a class that was called, I think, Literature for and About Children. And in that class we read the 3rd Harry Potter book and we also watched the movie. So I've read the first one and the 3rd one. In between college and when I was a kid, I had thought about reading the series after I'd grown up and had a little more say. But I felt like I, really missed the boat. I felt like, everyone else knew all about it and I was a noob and it was too late for me. So I never read them. But recently I was talking to a friend of mine and telling him my story, and he was like, you know what, if you want to read them, I will reread them with you and we can chit-chat and discuss them. And I was like, yes, let's do it. It is time. So we decided to read them this summer. So I'm just going to share, brief little thoughts. I'm sure you guys have probably read them already and know a lot more than I do and know what they're all about. But I thought I'd just share a couple thoughts on them and tell you what I rated them. The first one is, of course, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I've been borrowing them from my library and reading them on my iPad. This one just brought back good memories for me. Like, I remembered bits and pieces, and it just took me back to when I was a kid and discovering this world for the first time, and I just loved it. I was like, I was really feeling the nostalgia. And it was just delightful. It's a delightful read. So I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, which I rarely do. I think I've given a handful of books on Goodreads 5 stars. But this one just, really reminded me of my childhood, and I really enjoyed reading it. The second one is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And I also like this one. This one was totally new to me. I hadn't read it at all. I didn't have the same feelings of nostalgia as I did with the first one, but it was another fun read. I still prefer the first one to the second one, but I liked it. The third one is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and I also really liked this one. I remembered parts of this. I remember the little twist about the time turner towards the end. And I really like the movie for this one. I've been watching the movies after I read each book. I think the 3rd movie is my favorite one so far. They've grown up a little bit. I like the new characters we meet in this book, like Professor Lupin and Sirius Black. So far, I think the 3rd movie has been my favorite. I think the first book has been my favorite, just because of the nostalgia, really. But maybe it's a tie between the first book and the 3rd book so far. I did read one non-Harry Potter book this month, and it was The Girls at the Kingfisher Club by Genevieve Valentine. This I won in a Goodreads giveaway, which was the first time I've ever won. That was cool. And this is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses fairy tale. I was excited to read this because I love fairy tales and I usually like retellings of fairy tales, and yeah, it seemed really interesting. Oh, I should add that this is set in the Jazz Age in New York, so that also made me excited. I love books set in New York, as I mentioned in my last video. The story is told from the perspective of Josephine, who is the oldest sister, and their father is kind of horrible to them. He's locked them up in their house in New York City and doesn't let them out. He's very concerned about society and appearing proper, and he doesn't really know how to deal with them, so he kind of leaves Joe, the eldest, in charge and leaves them to their own devices. And of course, 12 sisters living under the same roof, they are restless and they want to get out, so they go dancing at night. They sneak off into the night and go dancing. And, you know, a lot of the story is about them going out and not wanting to get caught, obviously, because their father would be livid. Overall, I thought this was only okay. I would have liked to get to know each of the sisters a lot better instead of just Joe. The writing is okay. I found myself comparing this to The Rules of Civility, which is another book set in New York around the same time period, and that follows a young woman as she tries to sort of make it in the city, and that book has really sharp, witty dialogue, and it's such a good read. I thought this book was okay. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I wanted more from the story, which I didn't feel like I got, and I didn't think that this retelling added a lot to the story other than it, you know, being set in a different time period and a different location. But I thought it was okay. If it sounds interesting to you, you might like it more than I did. And that is everything that I read this month. I'm going to be sharing my July TBR in another video very soon, so keep an eye out for that. And I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who's commented and or subscribed so far. I'm so happy to be doing these videos and that people are seeming to like them, so I'll keep on. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for being so welcoming. If you like this video, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up and or subscribe if you aren't already subscribed. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you know, all the usual social media places, and my blog, which I will leave links to down below. I want to hear what you read in June, so if you want to share that in the comments below, please do, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.